welcome to Seniors Alive. This community television program on NCTV brings on persons who work in the community with seniors, 50 plus, or people who are themselves very alive, active seniors. And tonight, our guest, Evelyn Donaldson, fits both categories. She is the project coordinator for the Alzheimer's Outreach Project, housed at Sierra Nevada Home Care. And she also went back to get her degrees in later life. So she is a wonderful role model for those of us wanting to be an alive senior. Thanks, Evelyn, for being on today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome. So tell me, you did get into this field in later life. What had you been doing to that point, and then when did you go back for your degree, and how did your career unfold after that?
Well, for many years, 20 years, I worked for the telephone company, for AT&T, as a service rep. And my husband and I moved up to Grass Valley in 1984. And I didn't work for a couple of years, and I decided during that time that I wanted to get a college degree. I had never had college. I had had a few classes when I was younger, out of high school, but other than that, I had not had the opportunity to go to school. And my husband was 20 years older than me. He knew that I would probably, that he would predecease me, and so he wanted me to be secure as I aged. So we talked about my going back to college, and he supported me fully. He did all the cooking, all the cleaning,
Wow.
everything, because I was working and I was going to college. And so it took me 11 years to get my bachelor's degree in sociology. By that time, I knew that I wanted to be a medical social worker, and I wanted to work for hospice. That was my goal. And to work for hospice, you have to have a master's degree. So I got my bachelor's in sociology, then went on to get my master's in social work with the intent of going to work for hospice. Well, my husband during that period developed Parkinson's disease. And so my career plans were sort of put on hold because at a point, about 3 years before he died, I realized I could no longer work, even part-time. So I was a full-time caregiver for him, and after he passed away, I had my master's degree, and I did go to work for hospice for a short time. I realized that I needed more training in gerontology, because that was the population I was primarily working with. And so I went back to Sac State and got an advanced degree in gerontology. And as part of my as part of the work for that project, for that degree, I needed to do a project. And I had taken the Yes I Can caregiving classes while I was caring for my husband. So for my project, for the degree, I asked if I could, as a volunteer, bring back those classes to the community because they hadn't had them for a few years. And so I did. They were very successful. And out of that came my job with Sierra Nevada Home Care. And I was just thrilled. I never expected it.
A perfect fit,
it
really,
was.
given your personal experience and your education and your interests. And, you know, I saw our old friend and columnist for the community last Saturday, Mel Walsh, who now lives in Carmel,
such a dear.
she spoke in the class about how much she learned in your class.
Yes, it was just delightful to have her here, and what a boon. I mean, she was fantastic. She publicized, and then she was there, and then she wrote stories about various things, various subjects that we talked about. It was great having her in the class.
Yeah. Well, I miss her articles, and I was pleased to find out that we can access all 233 of those articles by going to melwalsh.com.
Really?
On the internet, all
that's
233
wonderful.
that were in the Union. And then she has the geezerdiary.com as well. So it's a blog. So even though she's down there, we can still kind of keep in touch with her.
That's good. That's great to
Yeah.
know.
Okay, so let's just talk more about the Yes I Can classes and how many are there, or how long do they go for, how much do they cost, if anything, which I know they don't, because otherwise I couldn't have said that on community TV. But
Yes.
Anyway, we'll publicize the fact that they're free. And the logistics and specifics.
Yes. Well, we have them twice a year, although there's such a great interest. Many people would like us to do it 3 times a year, but all of our speakers are volunteers, and they're all experts in their field, so that would be a consideration. Right now, we don't have the funding to pay them. So anyway, they're taught twice a year. Our next series is coming up beginning April 4th. There's 7 consecutive Mondays. They are from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock, and I provide food.
Wow.
A little, so because it goes through the
Yeah.
lunch hour, so we always have a protein, and we have fruit, and something a little breakfasty, and a little dessert thing. So it's not elaborate, but they enjoy it, and I enjoy fixing it for them. So that's what we do. There are 7 different categories, and as I mentioned, they're all taught by experts in the field. The first class that the class that's always the first class is caring for the caregiver. And I think that's the most important, because while the other subjects are vital, the information is vital, if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't do anything to take care of the loved one. So
Yeah, like that old airplane.
It's exactly like that.
Demonstration
Use
about the mask.
your oxygen first, and then take care of the person next to you. So it's exactly like that.
I know so many caregivers, and I know that even though they know that instruction, it is really a challenge to
It's
take
very
care of
hard.
yourself as a
Yes,
caregiver.
it is. And we put ourselves aside. We become isolated. We get health problems. You see it all the time. And more than 66% of the people who are caring for somebody in their home will die before the person they're caring for.
66% is
It's
that the statistic? Yeah.
It's a horrible.
It is a horrible statistic.
Yes, it
Ugh.
is.
And
So
then what comes next?
Then the other subjects. This year, we will be having the class on challenges of the aging brain, and that's taught by Kathleen O'Day. She's a licensed speech pathologist, with a wonderful knowledge and understanding of the human brain. We'll also be, the next class will be communications and behaviors, and that's taught by Barbara Larson, who's had many, over 25 years experience in the world of caregiving, dementia, understanding behaviors and communications. And then we have, not necessarily in this order, but we have a class in nutrition and incontinence. And I paired those two together. It seems a little strange, but garbage in, garbage out. You know, we had to put both of them someplace, and I thought that was a good place to put them together. So we have a registered dietitian, and then we have a registered nurse who teaches the incontinence. Carol Fairfull is the dietitian, and Teresa Thomas is the nurse who teaches incontinence. And then we have a class on community resources, and Lynn Nugent from Healthline does that one.
Good.
Valerie Logston teaches our class on legal and financial issues.
Great.
And Renee Chevreau, who's a medical social worker as well as a nurse, teaches our class on advanced directives. So the legal and financial and advanced directives are in one class. And then the last class, and it may be the last class again this year, is body mechanics, and that's taught by Laura Forniker, and she's in charge of rehab, all the rehab that we have at Sierra Nevada Home Care, all the rehab services. And she's just fantastic, and she teaches us how to move so we won't when we're helping somebody get up or put them in the bed or caring for them, that we won't hurt our backs or our knees. So I know after my husband, after my caregiving experience, I needed a knee replacement and I had a sore back. So,
it's not really a laughing matter.
No, it's not. But
I know when I was working in Los Altos at the, at Senior New Ways, Stanford Alzheimer's Diagnostic and Research Center was doing a study with some of our caregivers where it probably was a class kind of similar to yours, and they said that the research they had shown was that caregivers who would think of and do 4 fun things a day had a lower incidence of disease and depression than caregivers who didn't.
Absolutely. I haven't
run
heard
into
that, but it makes so much sense.
And that apparently doing more than 4 didn't necessarily statistically improve the results, but at least 4. And that caused me to start trying something because I imagine that this is related to stress management and cortisol floating around in the body and stuff. So when I was under stress driving around Los Altos, trying to get to a meeting or something, I would start thinking of 4 fun things I would do that day if I had time. And I noticed that immediately my stress would start to go down as I was thinking and imaging some of these things, and it could just take a second, you know, a walk in the park for 5 minutes. And if I was lucky, I actually could complete a few of those, but just thinking about them helped.
That's wonderful. That's great.
I wanted to ask about the class with Renee and with Valerie on the medical and advanced care directives. Do you talk in there about the whole matter of spending down resources when someone ends up in a nursing home for a long period of time and spending down resources to get on Medi-Cal and the Spousal Empowerment Act and so on?
Valerie addresses that issue. We don't spend a tremendous amount of time on it because she only has an hour and a half, and it's a very complicated issue, but she does address that. And she does address the qualifications to be eligible for Medi-Cal. And yes, so I would say the answer to that is yes. And if the person needs, and I also provide tremendous amount of printed resources. So what she doesn't cover may be covered in the printed resources because I always try to make sure they're up to date, the latest things. The last class we had, it was in October, and I had all of the latest things about the healthcare initiative that was being presented by President Obama. So I try to keep on top of all that, and then of course they can make appointments and talk to her or another attorney, but they definitely get some information.
Yeah, good.
A good starting point.
And then does Renee bring up also the POST form?
Yes.
The physician's order for life-sustaining treatment?
Yes. And we have a couple, each week the person will get a packet of information like this. And it is specific for that subject. And I provide the 5 wishes form as well as the California Advanced Directive for Healthcare and the POST form and an example of the DNR. So yeah, we cover all of that.
Good. Do you find that people are willing in the classes to do quite a bit of sharing of their personal feelings and situations?
Yes, we do that primarily at the first class. We go around and we talk about each situation. And Barbara always wants to know what the personal situation is. And the people, I think, are very willing to share. Because if they don't share, they're not going to get the kind of help that they really need. They don't have to share. They don't have to say a word.
Well, I know that the classes are free.
Yes.
But they're limited. So how do you make your decision in size? They're limited in size. So how do you make your decision as to who gets to come?
It's just first come, first serve.
First come, first serve.
They call Del Oro Caregivers Resource. down in Carmichael. It's just an answering machine at this point because, unfortunately, Del Oro does not have funding to. They only, I think, only have 4 employees now. I probably shouldn't have mentioned Del Oro without talking about them a little bit, but they used to be able to provide respite care for our caregivers. They provide a lot of the educational materials that I use even now, and but they're not able to give financial support. But when people register with Del Oro, they are, so they just register saying, I want to come. If they need to have respite care, Del Oro will provide somebody from a home care agency to come to their home and take care of their loved one while they are attending the classes. Del Oro can still do that, and that's a huge,
for free.
huge
Wow.
benefit.
That is a huge
Yes,
benefit.
there's no charge for that. Del Oro will pick up for a while they weren't able to do that, but I just heard from them last week that they will be able to
that
pay
is so
for
good.
that. So, but we do have to limit the classes. Last time I said I was limiting it to 15. There was such a response that we ended up having about 30 people. It's a little more challenging. Not everybody gets their questions answered, but the information gets to all of the people. So,
Oh, that's good. I'm so glad. What would it take to get a third round of classes? Well, you were saying that it would be a bit much to ask people to teach for free, but of course, if there was enough funding, I'm sure they'd be
Yes,
willing to. So
if
really,
we-
it's all funding.
Yeah,
If
it's
there
all
could just be
funding.
more funding, more people could be taught.
yes, and at the end of the sessions, I always send out a letter thanking people for coming, and I include an envelope that, if anybody feels like they want to contribute something to the continuing of these classes and are able to, they're welcome to. And people have been so generous, and the money goes to the Alzheimer's Outreach Project at the hospital foundation.
Yeah.
So it is specifically used for Yes, I Can. And paying, there are a couple speakers who I do have to pay, and that money pays for them. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, and there, at the end of the show, we'll have the credits for the funding that come to you, to the project from Sierra Nevada Home Care and the Sierra Nevada
Yes.
Memorial Hospital Foundation. So that's, so I just am so appreciative of what you're doing, what they're funding, and with the increase in well, not only the Alzheimer's population, but that's partly a function of the increase in seniors because of the baby
Yeah.
boomers. The needs for these classes are just going to be monumental. And so let's maybe just take a moment and talk about Alzheimer's in the picture nationally. Can you give a few statistics or snapshot of what we're looking at in terms of Alzheimer's disease in the United States?
Well, we know that it's going to reach critical mass, as you mentioned, because the baby boomers are now turning 65. I wish I had the statistics I should have them. I should know them by now, but I don't. I know that a very high percentage of people, I guess it's half of the people over age 85. Does that sound right
I have
to
some,
you?
yeah, that's when I,
Are going to be, will have some form of dementia. It may not be Alzheimer's.
all right.
There are many forms of dementia.
I'm glad this
and-
came up.
Yeah, and dementia in itself is it's not a disease. Dementia is a cluster of symptoms. Memory loss, short-term memory loss, confusion, the inability to problem solve, those kinds
Executive
of
abilities,
functions,
lack of executive.
functions. And so the most prevalent form of dementia is Alzheimer's. But then there's Lewy body disease, which is a form of dementia that is similar to Alzheimer's and has the symptoms of Parkinson's as well. And vascular dementia, which is caused by little strokes. Or if somebody has a stroke, they may end up with vascular dementia. The blood loss has been, oxygen and blood have been cut off to the brain. And then there's another form of frontal temporal lobe, which affects absolutely the executive functions. It's right there where all that is, behaviors, the filter that we use when we're talking to people. Well, those people unfortunately lose that filter. They lose their ability to reason. I just found out that Parkinson's, the ability to reason is very prevalent in Parkinson's disease. And I now know why my husband acted so strangely and wouldn't listen to me when I was telling him the right things to do. This very reasonable man no longer could reason. So I continue to learn as well. And so that's dementia. And the problem with getting just a generic diagnosis of dementia, some doctors tend to do that when the person gets old. It's not an absolute.
Right.
You're not going to absolutely get dementia as you age.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other half, if half over 85 have some sort of dementia,
Somebody's
the other
not
half
going
don't.
to. That's right.
And of course, they may develop it over time, but yeah. Well, I was amazed at how much the doctor really, was able to slow down my mother's dementia from 2002 when she first went on Aricept and then they added Namenda. And really, she was able to live alone and function quite well for 6 years.
That's wonderful.
And then she went to assisted living. And then when she broke her hip, and you know, the hospital and the skilled nursing just caused, and I see this constantly with people that are in the dementia unit, caused her to degenerate in her abilities and cognitive abilities as well. And so we did put her in the dementia unit of that place. And now just recently she broke her ankle. And so back to skilled nursing. And the hard part is that with the dementia, though she still recognizes me and she wants to go, she sees me as, well, can we go to lunch, you know, because she still loves to do that. But she doesn't understand about a little bit of touch pressure only on the broken ankle. So she demands two-person transfer. And so she can't be in the assisted living. And it's very sad. She's getting great care and all of this. But I think we just cannot emphasize to the listening audience enough how this is going to be a mushrooming problem. It's part of the silver tsunami that's on us already and going to just increase over the next 18 years or so. And that whatever you can do to support the foundation in offering these kind of classes, to support any kind of health care nationally, to fund these kinds of classes and Alzheimer's and other dementia work. If you can join the Alzheimer's Memory Walk, I think that is a huge effort that has gained in popularity. So many things people can do, really, to try to work toward improvement of the situation and alleviation of the suffering that the caregivers and the patients have.
Yes. And knowledge is so powerful.
Yeah.
The more we can learn about this disease, and it will be of invaluable help. People come to these classes and they learn a lot, but people can call me at the Alzheimer's Outreach Project, and I will talk. Sometimes we talk for an hour or more, or I'll meet with them in their home, and you know, it's the more they can learn about what they're dealing with, the more value, tremendous value.
So this is an important thing to emphasize. Even though people cannot take a class until April 4th, they can still call you at Sierra Nevada Home Care, which is the phone number we've had on there. Right. And I did want to ask if they want to register for the class, and they're supposed to call Del Oro, which we don't have the phone number up there for. Can they call the Sierra Nevada Home Care and get
Yes.
the right phone number?
They can call me, and I'll
Okay.
give them that. I can give you the
Okay.
number.
Okay,
now.
give us the right number to call.
Yes, but you can call me at Sierra Nevada Home Care
Okay.
at 274-6350.
Uh-huh.
Or the number for Del Oro is 1-800-635-0220,
Okay.
or
0220.
0220.
Uh-huh.
It's a little early because the classes aren't going to be starting until April. So if you want to register, I would suggest people call me at my office number, and I will put you on the list.
Okay.
And then I'll send out a flyer letting you know what the schedule is and all of that. So
Okay,
I've
good.
already
Well,
had
so-
my list going.
That's great. And hopefully this program will start airing in February so that there will still be quite a
There'll be
bit of
plenty of time.
advance notice. Uh-huh. We have just about a minute left, Evelyn, and first I want to say how much I appreciate your coming to the program and helping to get the word out about this most important work. And thank you for doing the work you're doing, and I'm so thrilled to hear that you're going to stay in our community. I had heard that you were thinking of moving. I was very sad about that because it seems like I just barely got to know you through Elder Care Providers Coalition. I wanted to ask one last thing about caregiver support that people get when they're in the class. How do people support each other in community?
Well, I think just by talking about what their personal situation is, they'll find other people in the group that are sharing the same thing. And I always send out a telephone. I ask first if I can share their telephone numbers, but it's amazing how they can get that support. And then we have support groups also in the community, and we didn't talk about that.
I know
so.
we didn't. And maybe I will do that. In the next program that we're going to be taping, as you know, with Barbara Larson
Yes.
on the same sort of topic. So
Maybe
thank
we can
you.
squeeze that in.
Thanks so much, Evelyn, for
Thank
coming,
you.
and we hope everyone will join us again in a month.
It's been a delight. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we should have,
They have the two caregiver support groups. So maybe we can.
for Sierra Nevada Home Care.
Sierra Nevada Home Care has one, and then there's one for.
Yeah, we're not still
We know.
taping. We're hoping that the program is.
We're looking like we're talking.
The Center for the Arts in downtown Grass Valley is a multi-use space